Here we go. All right. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. All right. Book club was interesting yesterday. I did not put up the recording because it was us just talking and discussing. We actually didn't go over the book. We were just talking and discussing everyone's thoughts and reactions in the community from the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, which is something that we have been talking about now for quite a while. And sadly, that attempt occurred. And I wanted to impress on everybody how close that came from being a devastating, horrible moment in the history of the United States. An inch and a half. We're going to actually look at some footage and you'll be able to get a greater appreciation of it. And then also the security failures. Listen, before I go on, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them, share them far and wide. Of course, if you are not subscribed, go ahead and do so. If you are on YouTube, it would be great if you could just roll on over to Rumble and subscribe there and like the videos there as well, vice versa. And, you know, all the way around, triangle effect, over the way to locals. It's an enormous help for us. It really is. The best place. Whoops. The mirror, the camera thing is messed up. What happened to the mirror camera setting? The best place to follow us is right there on Locals, peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. I'll have to remember that the thing is reversed now. Okay. Saturday night will be a moment almost, not almost. It will be a moment for those of us who are around and have witnessed and been around to experience on what happened on Saturday. It will be just like the oh, and by the way, I have my little one here with me, and the girls are gone for a week, so it's going to be a crazy week. Buckle up. There's a lot that's coming, and I'm going to have the little bean with me, so it is what it is. If you hear him in the background, say hi, Roro. Say hi. You don't have to walk in the camera. Just say hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. That was awesome. He's so cute. All right, but look, getting back to it, it's going to be a moment like prior generation had before us, when everyone's going to remember where they were when JFK was shot. Where were you when they tried to kill Donald Trump? I know where I was. I'm going to unbelievably discuss this with Sean Parnell, who was there, and he gave a speech, and then he dealt with the moment as I would have expected nothing less from Sean Parnell. For those of us who know him, that's what exactly I would have expected out of him. And that's why that man's my battle through and through. I'll tell you this too. He's going to relay some details. We're going to look at some footage, and it's going to be interesting. I am not, it is not my job. It's the media's job to tell you the events and the facts of the events. I don't know why. I already know some that is being withheld from you, and I'll blurt them out as soon as it's safe for me to do so for certain people. And I mean safe in the fact that you never want to expose anybody. But this is just going to get worse. This story is going to get worse. And even the footage that I have to show you, which was put together courtesy of Mike TV, it's going to blow your mind. I mean, that this was allowed to happen. All right. And then as we think we're prepping for this video, and it's already big enough, and I already have 50 clips, I got to figure out which ones I'm going to play and which ones I'm not going to play. We get a ruling from Judge Cannon in Florida. I mean, Judge Cannon who throws out the, Judge Cannon, sorry, who throws out the classified documents case based on the argument that our first guest has made, along with several other arguments. I will tell you this. Donald Trump has made some bad hires, man, and I've been real critical of them. As president, his administration was filled with a bunch of traitors and backstabbers. But Will Scharf is one of the best hires that Donald Trump has ever made. Period. Full stop. It's not just this case. It's the other cases that he's given his input in. And let's look at what Judge Cannon wrote real quick. All right. Let's put it up. I can't because Daddy's, of course, working and I'm really busy. So you have to play it on your own, okay? And wait for Yaya.
No, I'm busy.
You're busy?
Yes.
Are you working?
Yeah.
Okay. Daddy will take a look at it when I'm done working. All right. I can't do it right now. All right. Or you could just take that off and watch your Netflix thing. It's up to you. I don't know why you play something that scares you anyway. It's like this game with a babysitter, and like you're trying to, which is kind of a stupid concept for a game for a kid. But you're trying to like get away from the babysitter who's trying to find you. It's like hide and seek, I guess. But are they old enough to understand that, or is it just teaching them to run away from the babysitter? I don't know. I was deciding that last night. But the babysitter looks weird and kind of scares them a little bit, you know? So it's just like robotic looking, like one of those dolls on Halloween. It's weird. All right, so here's the order. Order granting motion to dismiss the superseding indictment based on appointments clause violations. Jack Smith is unconstitutional. This is something we've talked about on the show. William Shipley has given his commentary on this on Twitter. Robert Barnes has given his commentary on this on not only not inside the numbers on What Are the Odds, but also on his channel, of course, Viva Barnes Law. Former President Donald Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment based on the unlawful appointment and funding of special counsel Jack Smith is granted in accordance with this order, which is ECF number 326. The superseding indictment is dismissed because special counsel appointment violates the appointments clause of the U.S. Constitution, which is Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. Special counsel Smith's use of a permanent indefinite appropriation also violates the appropriations clause, which of course is Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7. But the court need not address the proper remedy for that funding violation given the dismissal on appointments clause grounds. The effect of this order is confined to this proceeding. That's a wrap. Now, there are people who are trying to cope with this and are on social media and they're going on MSNBC and they're saying, you know what, this could actually be a victory because he can now appeal directly to the 11th and then go from there. I don't know in what world this is a victory. I don't know. This is now can we just have a real conversation here for a second? Because I want to just say this. This is a victory for Donald Trump, but this will further cause mania among the left that I blame corporate media for, and the Democratic Party. They're operating on behalf of the Democratic Party. I blame them for this mass mental illness that they have inflicted on a vulnerable, impressionable share of the electorate. And they have taken, and this has long been a calling card. This is not new. And this is why I had been saying for months that I feared for Trump's life at this point, because you're making them desperate. All right. And then you're giving them this false hope. We're going to come up with unconstitutional novel legal theories. We're going to appoint one of the world's biggest scumbags in the area of federal prosecutors that anyone knows. I mean, Jack Smith is a dirtbag. Everybody knows he's a dirtbag. Andrew Weissman, who was number 2 and Robert Mueller's special counsel, is a piece of shit. Him and Jack Smith together have shared the dubious distinction of being unanimously 9-0 rebuked by the Supreme Court and overturned because of their prosecutorial misconduct. In the case of both of these men, especially in Weissman's case, they ruined the lives of literally, this is not an exaggeration, thousands of people. Just think about Arthur Anderson alone and what Andrew Weissman did. Now, you put these men on a pedestal. You put them on MSNBC. You call Donald Trump Hitler. You tell the left that, Republicans are literally, and in the case of what happened with Steve Scalise and the Russia collusion hoax, millions of people are going to die. Like Elizabeth Warren has the nerve, the audacity to put out a statement. Andrew Weissman has the audacity to put out a statement. Both of these people frequented the shooter of Steve Scalise's Facebook page almost on a daily basis. He constantly cited things they said. He constantly cited hope that he had that Weissman would come out and do something about this. Or at that time, it was really just the beginning of what turned into that probe. And Elizabeth Warren was featured on his page. We had a 60-second clip from her speech on the floor of the U.S. Senate saying that if Republicans are not stopped, millions of people will die. Donald Trump is a traitor. Republicans are an enabler of the traitor. And until we stop the Republican in Republican leadership in the House and in the Senate, then we can't stop Donald Trump. By the way, sign this change.org petition while I go shoot Steve Scalise. Joe Scarborough, Rachel Maddow, the New York Times, the Washington Post, they float this bullshit. They poison the minds of all of these impressionable and frankly disturbed people who need their asses some Jesus, have nothing else in their hearts. So they try to fill it with these like big movements, give their life meaning, some kind of meaning to their miserable lives that they cannot stand, that really have no meaning. And then they turn them loose. And when something like this happens, it's going to break their hearts even more. They're going to get more anxiety. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he's getting away with the lawfare too. What do we do? So from the right's position, especially those who supported Trump from the beginning, because let's face it, many of them did not. Many of them cried like little bitches underneath their tables, sucking on their thumbs when Jack Smith came and Joe Biden gave all of this stuff, all of these, prosecutors free reign to go after his political opponents. Many of people said, we got to go with somebody else. We got to go with Nikki Haley. We got to go with Ron DeSantis. Well, what would have happened then? What would have happened then? You think what would have happened if someone took a shot at one of them? Do you think they would be able to do this? This is going to be the most iconic moment. First of all, here's the picture. I'm sorry. I'm just going on the fly. Until our first guest shows up, I'm just going on. I would really, instead of doing this segmented, structured stuff, I'd really just rather have a conversation in this moment because I think it really is. This is going to be one of the most iconic pictures of our era. And of course, this is another angle that was caught while it was live. And this is what happened live. Okay. Think about this I want everyone to soak in this short clip. Watch this. Fight. Has anybody here been under gunfire? Been under fire? Has anybody listening to the show right now ever taken fire? Maybe you're in the military, maybe not. Maybe you're from the ghetto, man, and you were under fire every day in a major metropolitan area, basically. For those of you who know what it's like to be under fire, how easy is it to keep your composure? And to the he goes, wait. In other words, you're not going to drag me off this stage before I get this message to them, because it dawned on him. And by the way, apparently he's had an almost like spiritual reaction to this. But in that moment, he says, I mean, this is maybe just Trump, who's always a fighter and always pushing, like punching back, always counterpunching. But in that moment, he says, he must have thought to himself, and I can't get in his head, but what explains what he did there? Like, I have to let them know not to be afraid. He just took a bullet across his ear and cheek, which, if you've all seen it, maybe you haven't, some of the exhibits that news has done, and especially independent media. I mean, even Fox's reaction was disgraceful to this. Something happens. It's unclear. Trump fell on stage. I kid you not. Go look at Tom Bevan's Twitter feed. Go back to Saturday night. He first trashes another media outlet, and then he says, oh, Fox did the same thing. I'm so glad he did, because that was their initial reaction. What was his initial reaction? His initial reaction was to make sure that all of his supporters didn't lose their spirit, didn't lose their spine. I got to tell you, I don't know any other politician that would have had the reaction that Donald Trump had. I don't know. I know a lot of them really, really well. I can't tell you off the top of my head who else. I mean, well, Parnell's not a politician, so that doesn't count, but maybe is likely, or what appears to be his likely VP pick. I did get like a message from somebody that Vance was on the move in his motorcade. And of course, we're getting a VP announcement. We may even get it during the show. So I'll keep my eye out for it, but you probably will see it before I will, considering I'm talking and we'll be talking with people here. But I'm going to, ask Sean about this. Maybe JD Vance would do it. I don't know. It's so hard for those of you who do know what I'm talking about. It's so hard to predict what another person will do in a situation like this because there's no way to prepare for it. There's no way to train for it. There isn't. I mean, you can train somewhat. Donald Trump's never been through anything like that. That is the core of who he is. That is the kind of man he is. And by the way, there was loss of life at this event. And as a man, a father, a husband, that man needs to be celebrated and like never forgotten. He did what every man is supposed to do. But again, you don't know whether or not you have what it takes until that moment comes. And when that moment came and he had to protect his wife, he had to protect his offspring, he did what in our core as men we are supposed to do. And he paid for it with his life, but he saved theirs. We're so divorced from that gene, that instinct. I don't know how many of us would do that anymore. Let's get real. How many of us would react the way that he reacted? It tells you a lot about the man. It really does. And this time it's on full display for everyone to see. It's so different. Like it's a profile, a public profile in courage. It's not the same as, you know what, when all the lobbyists and all the foreign policy blob people called and tried to scare Donald Trump off from moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, as he promised to do and every other president promised to do, but then caved because they're cowards. Because Barack Obama ran into the same blob and he caved like a coward. All right. Because George Bush, W. Bush, Mr. Warmonger himself, ran into the same blob and he cowered in the face of adversity. He cowered in the face of resistance. Donald Trump didn't. He said, go yourself. This is what I promised I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. You don't scare me. No, you don't scare me. Mr. President, don't kill Qasem Soleimani because then it's going to lead to this rebellion in the Middle East. Up yours. He's a dead man. He killed and maimed thousands of our troops with the Quds Force. He's out of here. Taking him off the table. Those are all things that happen behind the scenes, and maybe you heard about it, maybe you didn't, but it did show you what kind of a man Donald Trump was. It's courage is courage. This is a public display of raw courage. Years ago, when Donald Trump was first running for office, remember, I'm sure many of you remember him, Don Smith, our good friend, and he had to show himself the Don Smith show. The day Trump took the lead in the polls, he got an interview with Donald Trump, which, by the way, they caught the FBI spying on. You can hear them chattering during the interview. It's unbelievable. We didn't know everyone thought it was the Chinese or something, maybe at that point. Like maybe it's just the Chinese because you couldn't really make out what they were saying, but you could hear people talking. It turned out to be our own FBI, in fact. But Don is interviewing him, gets off the phone. We're talking about the polls, and he's like, and we're talking about what it is. And I'm like doing my policy stuff, like it's immigration, Don. It's trade, Don. I'm from like the working class tri-state area. I've seen the factories. I have seen at some point, 50 to 100 illegal immigrants on the corner of 7-Eleven, on the corner of a Wawa, taking people's jobs. My buddies who went to vocational school while I continued in high school, right? They went to vocational school to do heating and air, to do carpentry, to do electrician, whatever it may be, to get their life. And here are these guys willing to work for $6 an hour, stealing their jobs. The only thing they had, the factories shuttering down for factories people relied on. So I'm thinking of like this, I'm approaching it like this. And Don just says, you know what struck me about this man? And it was like one of the best interviews with Donald Trump I've ever heard, by the way. It is the best until potentially, I got to tell you, the interview with Dr. Phil was an incredible interview. But other than that, like nobody, not Hannity, nobody came close to Don Smith pulling out the real Donald Trump in that interview. And he looks at me and he's like, you're making a lot about this. He's like, you're really going in depth here. He's going to win. He's going to win the nomination and he's going to win this election because of courage. Nobody has any courage anymore. Nobody's brave. They're all a bunch of sellouts, cowards, and crooks. And that's it. So when somebody like has, that trait, it's like human nature to recognize it immediately. It's inspiring and you want to follow it. And he's like, it's that simple. And maybe it was. But then, on different types, hold on one second. You could just come in. At different times, the media was like pushing back, trying to make this guy a crazy person. Oh, was the door locked? Oh, give me a second, guys. I got to go unlock the door. Okay. I thought I did. I'm sorry. I did. Okay. I love you. I'm going back to the camera. Oh, you hit the alarm. All right, going back to the camera. That's cool. Love you. Love you. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. And it was unlocked, but then she triggered the alarm. Whoops. Anyway, so rarely, because rarely things like this happen, do we get to see this like public, very public display of courage. I got a buddy in Scotland. He calls me after this happens and he's like, that's it. This dude won overwhelmingly. He's like, I have people who's like in the EU, the coverage is, you think the American media is slanted, in the United Kingdom, in France, everywhere, all over Europe. The coverage is so slanted and so bad. Even his local station got trounced by bigger media for trying to claim that it wasn't an assassination attempt at first, or at least trying to cover it up. And even people who are crazy, I mean, the spectrum, the political spectrum is different in Europe than it is here, but they would be considered our left wingers, and they normally hate Donald Trump. And a big deal there, even with someone like him, is that he believes that the NATO propaganda, he's going to dismantle NATO. You're not going to be safe, right? All of that, he said, just went out the window in a second, because like there is something about a man defying, after being very closely met with death, defying the adversity and still saying, fight on. It's like, even if you don't like the guy, it makes you want to vote for him. It really does. Compared to the feeble, decrepit display of Joe Biden at the debate, let's get real for a second. Let's just talk about how big this margin with men is going to be. Okay. And I think, even honestly, I think this does help with women. Ladies, let's be honest. And again, I just want to have like a real conversation here until our guest comes on. Let me ask you something, ladies, because I get accused of being a misogynist once or twice in my life. Would you rather have a strong, borderline misogynistic male, if once in a while he makes stupid comments like Donald Trump, like me, right? Would you rather have a strong man or a decrepit beta soy boy idiot? Like, in your core, which one would you want leading you? Which one would you want even being like, like the person who's in charge of making sure, if God forbid something else like this ever happened to your family, they would dive in front of your daughter. They would dive in front of you. They would dive in front of your young child, your young son, whatever it may be. It's like, do you want this decrepit piece of garbage, or do you want somebody who's stronger? And I really think part of this is just human nature. And I don't know I mean, there's going to be partisans, but aren't those partisans already soy boys? Like, aren't they already people who don't value this anymore? They think they live outside of the rules of nature because they've been coddled by society. Like, you're not, like, what I'm saying is, you're not going to win those votes anyway. Like, those are the people who still voted for Walter Mondale, and they're a modern day version of Mondale voters over somebody like Ronald Reagan. Like, even my lifelong Democratic grandparents from New York City voted for Ronald Reagan. Only the, you know, it is what it is, voted for Mondale. Anyway, I want to read something real quick. I think it's important. All right. And I'm talking about this because you know what? We got a couple of minutes here. Let me get rid of the screen share. Let me get rid of this. Well, we're going to play that back again anyway in a different angle because it's going to be part of another thing that I'm going to play for Sean. But I want to just read something while we have a couple of minutes here before we got to either take our first break or I'm going to try to push the break back as far as I can, to be honest. All right. And I want to read this in celebration of this guy because it goes to what we were just talking about. So before you down manhood and alphahood, which we've been doing for decades in this country, to the point where we're actually causing evolution to suck away our testosterone as if it's a bad thing or something. But before we do that, we might want to reflect on real life superheroes who do incredible things, ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And I just want to read the first couple of paragraphs, and I just want to give the man a little bit of a shout out here. Okay? Real life superhero man killed at Trump rally, lauded for his final act, protecting his family. Corey Comparatori's wife and daughter, in statements on Facebook, described a chaotic scene during the shooting. In Corey Comparatori's final moment, he did what came naturally to the father of two daughters. He protected his family with his own life. Quote, he shielded my body from the bullet that came at us, one daughter, Allison Comparatori, wrote in a social media post. He loved his family. He truly loved us enough to take a real bullet for us. Mr. Comparatori was shot and killed Saturday at a rally for President Donald Trump. Two other spectators were wounded. David Dutch, 57, of New Kensington, and James Campenhaver, 74, of Moon. They were in stable condition Sunday at Allegheny General Hospital on Pittsburgh's North Side, police said. Quote, he was the best dad a girl could ever ask for, his daughter wrote, adding that he was a real-life superhero. Flags statewide will be flown at half staff to honor him yesterday, and that was yesterday. All right. So, let's not lose everything in our anger, right? And I think it's a great time to start. What any man would do, it said. Is that really true? Is that really true? Because I got to tell you, for those people I addressed earlier in the show, at the beginning of the show, anyone who's ever been under fire before, is that really true? You could have trained battle buddies run. Trained battle buddies panic and sit down. And you have to grab them by the collar and say, get up. You can't stay here. Get up. Move. If you stay here, you are going to die. Then they get up. Is it really true that anyone would jump in front of a bullet to protect their family in this modern era? I'm not sure. Because they've been poisoned by the same people who poisoned the minds of these weak-minded, impressionable, again, in badly need of some Jesus people who just end up doing this crazy stuff because they are fanatics. And the media wants them to be fanatics. And before I bring my guest on, that is something I just want to point to again. This is their fault. This is the Democratic Party's fault. The hell with this unity stuff. That's on President Trump to go to the convention and talk about unity, folks. And that would be the political smart thing to do. And then when you get in there, destroy them because they're a cancer who's going to end up lining you all against the wall. That's how this goes with leftism. It has to be, we talked about in the book club, stamped out, shamed out, and defeated. And eventually, like the loyalists who were still in the colonies, they were allowed to stay, and the leaders wanted them to stay, and they did integrate with society, but it took time to phase that mindset out. And anyone who was a loyalist was basically like, huge social bias, where they were just like shamed as fools who believed in backward thinking. And the biggest thing you can do in response to this, the biggest statement that could be made is defeating them within the limits of the political process, and defeating them badly. It's basically beating them at their own game that they tried to rig time and time again, and emerging victorious. You're making a statement saying, you can't do this. You're not allowed to do this. Relegate them to a 30-year out of power party, because this is what they wanted. Let's get real. It's a social contagion. There's a wealth of information about it. They know they're doing it when it comes to mass shootings and gun control. They intentionally do this stuff. And it's time to stop with the let's unify crap. They're never going to unify. They have to be contained and defeated. All right. With that in mind, wow, man. Like I said in the beginning of the show, this may be the best hire Donald Trump has ever made. Is he ready to come on? All right, listen, I want to bring on, of course, he's running for Attorney General. Let's not lose that, because he is President Trump's member of President Trump's legal team, Trump's lawyer, but he's also a candidate for the Attorney General in the state of Missouri, which is just, again, in this time, an incredibly important office. Will Scharf, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, Will, big day.
Big day. It's a hell of a win for us down in Florida, getting that case dismissed.
Wow.
Have to give a shout out to the two key trial lawyers down there, Todd Blanche and Emile Beauvais, who have just done an outstanding job. But really vindication for all of us who have been saying all along that this Jack Smith prosecution is wildly unconstitutional, should have never started to begin with. And now we're seeing these cases just fall like dominoes, really, ever since that presidential immunity win a couple weeks ago. So we feel pretty good about things this morning.
I just want to pop it up again on the screen and show people real quick what Judge Cannon wrote. But basically, it says former President Trump's motion to dismiss the indictment based on unlawful appointment and funding of special counsel Jack Smith is granted in accordance with order, etc. And goes on to obviously cite the appointments clause, which is Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2. This was what I found to be immediately hilarious, that you and others would go on and say, listen, let's not forget that Jack Smith is not really a constitutional appointment. And everyone made out like this is a crackpot theory. This is not, this is how they reacted to it, Will. And they're on Twitter right now saying this may be a good thing because they can now appeal to, I believe, what is it, the 11th Circuit, and et cetera, et cetera. What's your take on both of those responses? One, that it's just, this was a crackpot theory, and then two, where they could potentially go from here.
Right. So there are two key legal issues here. One is the appointments issue. Jack Smith has never been appointed by the president. He's never been confirmed by the Senate. And yet he's exercising authority and the power to indict, the power to initiate these prosecutions that typically would only be allowed for somebody who's gone through that process. So normally when you have a special counsel, Robert Hur, who investigated Biden, is a good example of this. They're an existing U.S. attorney, or there's somebody else who's gone through the confirmation process. That's the constitutional system. That's the system the Constitution lays out to ensure that the checks and balances that underlie our whole constitutional system are in effect. What they did here instead was they pulled Jack Smith. He was working at The Hague, never gone through this confirmation system, never has been appointed by the president. And yet he was exercising all the powers that a U.S. attorney or another similar type of official would be. We viewed that as unconstitutional. Then there's the fact that he was being funded. This is the appropriations clause issue.
Yep.
Out of this open-ended appropriation intended for independent counsels really doesn't apply to somebody like him who's still operating under DOJ oversight. deep constitutional questions over whether that sort of appropriation is lawful. And Judge Cannon gave us an absolute win here. This is an issue that we've been tracking for a long time. It actually came up in front of the Supreme Court during our presidential immunity arguments. Justice Thomas wrote an outstanding concurrence just a couple weeks ago saying essentially what Judge Cannon just said today, that Jack Smith was not constitutionally appointed. So we really feel vindicated. We've seen this over and over again that, we bring very well-founded legal motions and briefs in all these cases, and the left cries foul and says that we're crazy. And then we end up winning because at the end of the day, we're actually pretty good lawyers. We know the law. And what Biden and his allies are trying to do to President Trump here is railroad him. This is not a normal constitutional legal process. It hasn't been from the start. And fortunately, now we're starting to get the courtroom wins that reflect that basic fact.
And this is why I kind of want to tie this into what happened on Saturday, because this is always, from a public opinion analyst point of view, for me, one of the more concerning things about what they were doing. They set these people up for failure, and then they explode when they fail. Well, so they come up with these legal arguments that are novel and crackpot, and they're doing all of these unprecedented things and crossing all of these Rubicons and almost like promising these people, like the shooter, we're going to stop them. And then when something like this happens, it's obviously the right move. It's the right call, but something can be a trigger to some of these people that they're fueling. It's no secret. We have a massive problem with mental illness in this country. And it's like they exploit that. They exploit it. And when they they give no regard to the potential impact they may have when they do things like this, and this is somewhere, believe me, somewhere in America right now, some nutcase liberal is stewing to the point of dangerous, to the point of being dangerous. Ignorance can be dangerous and they don't care.
Yeah, we saw this after the presidential immunity decision came down a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
You had folks on the left saying, oh, well, now Biden should send the military out to
Execute.
kill all the MAGA people.
Yep.
I mean, it's deranged. It's absolutely crazy. But with respect to this campaign of lawfare, from the start, it's just been this extra legal just madness. And I believe that the reason they appointed Jack Smith in the first place was that they couldn't get a high-ranking official in DOJ. They couldn't get a real prosecutor to bring the sorts of cases that they wanted. And Jack Smith has stretched these legal theories to their absolute breaking point. He's used wildly overbroad interpretations of statutes, both in Florida and in D.C., to get these prosecutions going to begin with. But what we've seen over and over and over again now, not just in the Jack Smith cases, but in all of these cases, that as we really get into the law and as we start challenging these cases, they blow up in the face of the prosecutors. I mean, Georgia is another great example of that. That was breathlessly covered, this RICO indictment. Well, today, Fani Willis and her prosecutors are in far more legal jeopardy than President Trump or any of his co-defendants. Florida's gone. New York's going to get overturned on appeal. D.C., I don't think they have a case left after the immunity opinion.
Yeah.
So what looked like this incredibly threatening, dangerous campaign of lawfare against President Trump, it's a house of cards, and that house of cards is now fortunately collapsing.
I just want to do this, and I know it's not, you would not do this for yourself, so I'm going to do it. I want to read something. It's going to probably sound a little bit familiar to you, and because I want to expand on what you were just talking about. Like the people who took up these cases, there had to be something wrong with them for being okay with doing this, right? So when you look back at Fani Willis, she's in trouble with more legal jeopardy than Donald Trump is in that state right now, or more jeopardy. Professional career is in deep trouble. And it's like, who was Jack Smith? This was in the Federalist when Jack Smith first emerged with these indictments. You wrote, if you could pick any lawyer in the country to handle a controversial case against a former president, a case involving an aggressive, unprecedented use of the Espionage Act, a controversial law in and of itself, what lawyer would you pick? You'd probably want just a consummate professional, right? But that's what you wrote, but they didn't do that. And you go on to write about how, and I was just alluding to this before you came on, a unanimous Supreme Court smacked down Smith smacked Smith down for an overzealous, legally defective prosecution of a Republican politician, and the opinion was so devastating that DOJ did not even attempt to retry the case. It was just dropped. His wife also, for people who don't know, is a radical left-wing filmmaker who did the Michelle Obama gush fest. I mean, you called it a hagiography. This is something we don't really talk about enough either. And Andrew Weissman was the number 2 to Robert Mueller. It's like, you were a federal prosecutor. Is there a problem in our ranks? Like,
I think that you look at this team that's been prosecuting Trump. At the Supreme Court, they had Michael Dreeben representing the special counsel's office. Well, Dreeben was a key legal advisor to Robert Mueller as well. It's this same narrow set of, I believe, self-righteous DC hands who are just hell-bent on getting President Trump at any cost. And the damage has been done. The damage has been done to our legal system. We talk about this a lot. What Biden and his allies have set off here is the possibility of just an endless cycle of political recrimination and prosecution. It's deeply un-American. It's antithetical to our constitutional system. In their haste to get Trump into court to prevent him from running for office, which I believe that's what this was all about, election interference, they've done real damage to our constitutional system. And I hope our system is robust enough so that we can start to repair that damage now. But it's just been gratifying to all of us just to see these cases collapse one by one by one. And Judge Cannon's decision this morning, I'm about halfway through it. I'll confess I haven't read the entire thing yet. It's wonderfully written. It's very well done. I think it will stand up on appeal. And if we have to go all the way back to the U.S. Supreme Court on this, we will, and we will win again.
Yeah, why would they do that given what Thomas already wrote, what Justice Thomas already wrote? It's a bit of a signal. I don't think I ever asked you this, but it's like in this time, it's not exactly the safest bet to run for office, right? I mean, it's not. And I think like this is another thing I worry about. Like after what's been done to former President Trump, it takes a lot for people to decide, you know what, I'm going to put my hat in the ring. I'm going to step forward. I'm going to do this. You're running for Attorney General in Missouri. And I'm just wondering, like, these jobs are so important. They don't get enough attention. They really don't. These races are huge. We talk about all the Soros funded, basically installed DAs and SAs across the country. Why did you do this? I mean, why did you do this? I mean, really,
Rich, when we first started talking, I had a lot more hair. I mean, it's been a brutal, stressful process. It's also been I'll tell you, it's been an uplifting process. I've gotten to travel around the state of Missouri. I've met just tons of outstanding conservatives. People are really fired up right now, and they're ready to take our country back. I think, just speaking as a conservative lawyer, we need people everyone talks about being a fighter. It's easy to talk about being a fighter and to sort of go on TV and sound tough. We need conservatives who know how to win. The Republican Party has sort of, until Trump really, accepted the idea that we were in this permanent rearguard action, that we were sort of consigned to this fate of a constantly losing. And I think we lost sight of the fact that you have to put lead on target and you have to actually win. And we've seen that with President Trump's cases. It would have been very easy just to sort of go to trial and, take our licks and sort of do things the way that I think a lot of people expected us to. But really from the start, we've been very vigorous. We've challenged these cases. And because we've fought so hard, we've been able to win. And I think it's that sort of winning mentality that we need to bring back to the Republican Party. I think once President Trump is back in office next January, we're going to see a lot of that at the federal level. We need that. We need that at the state level as well. Managed decline is a choice. Winning is also a choice. And it's been the honor of my lifetime to get to work for President Trump, to get to defend him against this campaign of lawfare. And I want to bring that same attitude, that same fighting spirit to the Missouri AG's office and just build out an outstanding team of conservative lawyers who can chalk up durable wins for the conservative movement, hopefully for years to come.
You've shown yourself incredibly adept in dealing with adversity, and you met these, again, just crazy novel legal theories head on, and you're winning, man. I mean, I can't state enough like how big of an accomplishment, multiple accomplishments you guys have had, and you've been a key figure in that. Let me ask you, You ever see a man deal with adversity like this? Like on a
No,
personal note, you ever seen?
President
No.
Trump he's built different than I think any person I've ever met. You know, you look at everything they've thrown at him. You look at the life that he's given up to do this. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's a multi-billionaire. I've seen some of his properties. I've, seen some of his homes. He had a beautiful, wonderful life. He has a wonderful family. He's deeply committed to everything that he talks about, to making America great again, to really rebuilding American greatness. And that's why he's doing this. And what they've done to him, I mean, obviously, this assassination attempt is on a totally different level.
Yeah.
But really, from the moment he came down that golden escalator, the left has been hell bent on just destroying him personally. It's the politics of personal destruction playing out in just such a visceral, real way. And I take my hat off to him. I'm full of admiration for the man that he is and what he's going to accomplish. And as I said, it's been the honor of my lifetime to get to fight for him, frankly, because he's always fought for us. And that's, to him, I think, what this is all about.
If I could just real quick share a real quick story with you before he announced that he was running for president. It was the CPAC before his announcement. I was sitting in the audience listening. And at that time, I mean, he drew a crowd, but he wasn't, this huge leader in the Republican Party yet. And he gets up and gives this speech about how he's always been asked if he's going to run and, he's got a good life. But at this point, the country is in so much trouble that it can't be another Bush. It can't be another Clinton. It can't be another Obama. These people have managed our decline. It has to be somebody else who is willing to put something on the line because they just love the country. And it stood out to me right then and there. It really did. And yeah, it's been a heck of a ride really ever since. But yeah, then he takes, an assassination attempt and goes out and plays a game of golf. I mean, this is
Rich, I think it's really important
amazing.
that exact moment of this assassination attempt. He gets up and the Secret Service are trying to hustle him off the stage. And his first concern isn't for his own personal safety.
Nope.
It's to reassure the crowd, to reassure the American people that he's okay.
Yeah.
And that's why he stands up, he pumps his fist, he makes sure that the whole world sees that he's unbowed. And it's that sort of leadership that's so lacking among our political classes, who I believe are really in it for themselves. It's this sort of endemic public corruption, just this sort of endemic grift that we've seen from so many politicians for so long. And President Trump is just the opposite of that. His first thought was to reassure the people there, the people watching all over the country, that he was fine, that America was going to be fine, and that the fight was going to go on.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Really well put. Really. And under those circumstances, like I was trying to tell people earlier, you just never know how you're going to react until a moment like that comes. And it just tells you everything you need to know about the man. I think actually Megyn Kelly had a fantastic react.
Yeah.
I think she broke it down very well. And I had nothing more to really add to what she said. For those of you who didn't see it, you should go check it out because she nailed it 100%. Well, look, man, we wish you all the best. You really can come back. You have an open invitation to come back on anytime you want. You really are just doing God's work out there, and people owe you a debt of service. I mean, they really do. So come back, tell us how the campaign's going, and of course, anytime you want. And thanks for coming on, especially in such short notice. This decision just came now.
Always great to be with you. It's been a long, strange journey throughout this whole legal campaign, but I think fortunately the end is in sight, and the end is an absolute victory for President Donald J. Trump. And it's just been a truly an honor to get to work for him and also to work with just the outstanding lawyers that we have on our team. It's been just an incredible honor to be among so many great lawyers. And fortunately, we've been able to get the job done.
Tell people real quick, actually, from our family to yours, God bless you. Honestly, God bless you. Tell people where they can learn more about you and, the campaign and everything, and follow what you're doing.
Yeah, you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Truth Social, at Will Scharf. And my campaign website is www.votescharf.com.
Thanks as always. We'll see you soon, all right?
Great to be with you. Appreciate you having me.
You too. Will Scharf, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know how many people, have right off the bat been out with these ideas. There's these novel legal theories came out of the, out of the clear. They're making them up out of whole cloth as they go. And right from that first article in the Federalist, he met it with a look. This is 6 reasons why. Bang, 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 and bang. I mean, all the way down the line, you guys. If you haven't read it, we read it on the show. When it first came out. But if you haven't, go reread what Will Scharf wrote on the Federalist at the time and tell me he wasn't all over it. And just huge successes. And I wish him all the best. I really do, because he's done a huge service, not just for Donald Trump, but for the entire country. I mean, the immunity argument. You guys know my feelings on that. That argument literally saved the presidency. I cannot tell you enough how the presidency would have been neutered, ineffective. Our last vehicle, well, the only vehicle in the executive branch where you vote to affect the change that you want. Everybody else is just doing their own thing. It's a huge bloated bureaucracy. That's an understatement. They do whatever they want. The president is the only figure that we're allowed to have a say in, or that we can even have a say in, who we want there, and they're supposed to affect the change. They're supposed to set the agenda. And I think the lesson of the Trump administration, the main lesson was that those bureaucrats don't care. They don't care. And that has to change. And then they will do everything in their power to either impact the outcome of that election, rig it outright, or if you manage to get the guy or girl that you want and they don't approve, they will do everything in their power to subvert them, which is what Crossfire Hurricane was, which is what Andrew Weissman did, what Robert Mueller did, and now what Jack Smith was attempting to do. It's all the same group. Will Scharf is right. It's all the same group. They're playing musical chairs. They think they're above the law. They have no respect for voter sovereignty. I really couldn't think of a better person to be the Attorney General of the state of Missouri. I mean, honestly, any state. Like, these are such important positions. You have got to have people, and he articulated it better than I can. You've got to have people who not only get up there and talk a good talk a good, big game, big tough guys, and then they get in there and they melt, man. There are people out there trying to kill political leaders. There are people out there trying to jail political dissidents. People like Will Scharf have got to be in the positions where they can do something about it, because the rest of them are just too cowardice. Look at Georgia. What the hell took so long? They threw a state senator out of the Republican conference for attempting to investigate what we all now know to be true, which is that Fani Willis is corrupt. The indictment is a sham. It likely came down from at that time he was saying, likely came down from the Biden White House. We now know it did. Give me a break. What's she doing going in and out of there? What business does she have with the president and members of his team? It's a revolving door for Fani. This one leaves the Justice Department. This Biden loyalist leaves the Justice Department to go work for Alvin Bragg in a dump of a district. Nobody would ever do that as a career move. They plucked Jack Smith from The Hague. He was not even living in the United States. His wife is some fanatic left-wing filmmaker who idolized Michelle Obama in this disgusting biography or whatever documentary, whatever you want to call it. No, thank you. And unfortunately, it's just not good enough. Like, no party has proven themselves to be in it for the right reasons. You have to pick the individual at this point. The Republican Party still hates Donald Trump. Can we get real? The establishment, the donors, I just got back from a donor speech, whatever you want to call it, like a tour speaking to donors and different people. They absolutely hate him. They were furious they didn't get their way again. That being said, after this assassination attempt, what you had was a absolute deluge, of people coming out and throwing their full-throated support behind Donald Trump. Elon Musk, obviously famous, whatever you want to call him, businessman, a lefty, largely a lefty, financially, vocally, and physically supported Joe Biden in 2020. Now, completely on the Trump train. Silicon Valley figures on the Trump train. This is, at the very least, a moment where you can really clear. I mean, it's all the people at the restaurant could talk about when it happened on Saturday. I finally decided I'm going to take a break and go out with my wife, my kids, their girlfriends and boyfriends and their parents who are our friends. And for once I decide, I think I'll take a minute and, do that. Waiting for them to give me the text message and bang, I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Not that it surprised me, because if you watch the show, this sadly, we've talked about it before. It was the worst possible thing to happen, but it was something that I did sadly expect to happen. All right, let me take a real quick break, and when we come back, we'll move on with our show here. What a great guy, Will Scharf, for coming on. What an incredible impact he has had on this whole thing, the lawfare, everything. And again, I just want to thank him for coming on, especially such short notice. Always makes time for us. And I know he's obviously very busy getting calls from everybody to come on because of the role he has in Trump's legal team. And just what an amazing life accomplishment. If you're Will Scharf already, I hope and pray he adds the Attorney General of Minnesota to that list. But in the last year, the life accomplishments that have lasting impact on American history, it is not an understatement, that he has had. Just incredible. And God bless him. God bless him. All right, but with everything crazy going on in the world, it is natural, and talk about expected, for people to be looking for safer places to invest their money. They're looking for protection. Stocks are unpredictable, so are political events. And let's face it, inflation obviously has an impact on the value of currencies. That's why I want to talk to you about Freedom Gold USA. If you're thinking about a place, for gold and silver, or you're just maybe interested in diversifying your investment portfolio, Freedom Gold USA is the company that you should check out. First of all, Brian's been on. I'm glad he came on to put a face to it. You could see the best thing about them is that this is really about giving you as much information as possible. Of course, they want you to build that relationship, but there are no pushy, hard sell tactics. That Brian and the team really believe that the more you know, the better. Help you make great, decisions that you're confident in, and they give you the information that you need to do that without the pressure, without the hard sell. Also, the pricing is some of the best and most competitive you're going to get on the best quality, purity gold, silver you can find. Look, the deal they have for you guys right now is just amazing. You go call some of these other people. Many of us, we all know them, but 50 grand investment, 20 grand investment. And even Freedom Gold USA, it was $5, but they lowered that to just $500 for viewers and listeners of our show. All right. And by the way, you're still going to get free shipping and insurance on all order. There's no extra fees you have to worry about. Opening a new gold or silver IRA is going to get you a $500 credit. It's an incredible bonus. And by the way, if you are part of the People's Pundit crew, then you're going to get thrown into a pool where they're basically going to raffle off more free gold and silver. Like, there's nothing else that you could possibly ask for. And if you're somebody who's looking to invest in precious metals, check them out. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/rich, which is our website. That'll tell them that we sent you. freedomgoldusa.com/rich, or you could call our number to them, 888-279-3592. It's on the screen. Also in the description of the video, along with the website. 888-279-3592. And by the way, it still doesn't hurt when you tell them the People's Pundit sent you. Tell Brian I said hello. Simple, hassle-free, no hard sell. Love the people at Freedom Gold USA. All right, I just want to play a video clip real quick, and then we're going to move on to our next show.
Under Donald Trump, America was thriving. Our economy was booming. Inflation and unemployment were at rock bottom. We had a president who was respected all around the world. Maybe they didn't all like him, but they sure as hell respected him. Donald Trump gave us the Abraham Accords, the closest thing to peace in the Middle East in my lifetime. Criminals were prosecuted. Our law enforcement was celebrated. Trump loved our military. Our military loved Donald Trump.
That's our friend Sean Parnell giving one hell of a barn burner speech over at the Trump rally that occurred on Saturday before the assassination attempt. And here's Sean Parnell after the assassination attempt.
Elevated position outside of the venue, but at that briefing last night, a reporter asked whether there had been any threats in response to this.
Now, I'm not trying to embarrass the guy, but I expected absolutely nothing less from my battle. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Parnell. What's up, battle buddy?
Hey, man. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Whoa. So
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
And this sucks. I mean, what else
Yeah.
could you say?
We've been talking about it, Rich. You and I have been talking about this day as an inextricable end state to where we are. And it's so unbelievable and terrible to even have to acknowledge or say that, but it's true. And yeah, that rally, been in lots of firefights before, my friend, but that one was different. That's for sure.
Speaking of which, I'm glad that you brought that up. I want you to help me impress on the people listening and watching how much it says about a man when he does something like this. After being shot at,
Yeah.
after taking one, thank God, a graze, but nonetheless, across the ear and on the cheek, like unbelievable. You know, you can even when you're in the military, you can train for it. You know, you never know how you're going to react. Maybe people are from the streets watching the show. You know, they got themselves out of the ghetto. They had to live with with constant threat of stray bullets, whatever it may be. You know what I'm talking about. This is not what every person would do. And in that moment, he wanted to show the world and show his supporters and show the country that he was unfazed, unafraid, and just like unbroken, unrattled. And you cannot expect that from everyone, Sean.
Listen, man,
and what I'm saying.
I'm telling you, so there were so many things about that day that were just, I've been trying to unpack it for the last couple of days. And I'm telling you, Rich, first of all, there was something in the air.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. I don't care.
Yeah.
I know that you won't, but I'm sure some people will.
We've talked. Yeah.
But there was something there. There was something in the air that was different. I've been on the stage with Trump many times. I was with him 30 minutes before this attack. And when I was on stage speaking, the flag kind of got blown into this, like, it looked like an angel, it looked like Christ on the cross, it looked like an eagle, it looked like, and all for the past 2 days, people have been sending me different angles of what, I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable. And President Trump gets up on stage, and I'm standing 20 feet from the guy, right? Like right as he comes out, if you're looking at the podium on television, I'm to the left. right? But he walks down like this little red carpet ramp thing, and I'm like, we're right there. Comes out, points directly at Melanie and I, my wife and I, gets up on stage, and he starts talking, doing his thing, and he goes, I'm gonna go off teleprompter. He's like, I'm always telling my people I hate these teleprompters. They're boring. Do we have the graphic? My favorite graphic, and it's the immigration graphic. And he turns to it once to look at it, because you got these two big screens behind us, right? He turns to it once to look at it. He's like, oh, there's that red arrow there. And he comes back. That's my favorite arrow. And you see right there. And he looks. And at the exact moment he turns, and I'm watching this entire thing, like 5-6 rounds were shot. And I see President Trump go like this, grab his ear, and drop in the prone, which, by the way, tactically speaking, that's exactly exactly hit the deck, hit the prone. That's what Trump did.
He sees me, I'm down. I'm up. He sees me, I'm down. That's it. For those who don't know what we're talking
about, the Secret Service was on him. Like a second later, they were on him. And I thought, well, at that moment, I'm like, I didn't know how badly Trump was hit, because all I saw him was grab his ear and go down. And Secret Service, I said, okay, well, Secret Service has him, but I was initially operating under the assumption that there were two shooters. And I cannot emphasize that enough, because the way I could hear the rounds crack over my head, go supersonic over Melanie and I's, because like I could hear them. They were that close. And I could tell it wasn't a high caliber rifle, it was likely a 223 or an AR. But I got down, and I immediately had my wife flat on the ground, and my friend JD, who's the mayor of Slippery Rock, and his wife is pregnant, had her on the ground. And everyone was saying, they were still standing up saying that fireworks. I'm like, they're not fireworks. It's a sniper. Everybody get down. Everybody get down. And it took me a while to get people down. But the thing is that, like, when it's just, it's hard to describe, Rich, and this certainly doesn't apply to everybody who's in the audience, but there were 30,000 people there, and probably more. But you go through something when you get shot at for the first time, and that is, holy shit, somebody's trying to kill me, Yeah. And I don't know this person, but somebody wants me dead, and everybody processes that differently.
Yeah.
And there were probably 30,000+ people who were trying to process that all at that given moment. And when I finally got people to be able to kind of get down, I was trying to like ascertain where the shooter was coming from, because Secret Service had their job. The cops had their job tracking down the shooter, like helping to evacuate some of the wounded who were like right behind Melanie and I, like right 10, 15 feet directly behind us. Because the rounds, I mean, it was just crazy. Trying to figure out where the shooter was, because I knew that there were going to be 30,000 people, one exit, nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, like, well, okay, it has to be water tower. It has to be building. But instantly I checked myself, and I was like, well, there's no freaking way that would be the case. Secret Service absolutely has to have that on lockdown.
I want to talk to you about this.
On lockdown.
I really want to talk to you about this.
Yeah. And so,
yeah, we're going to get there in a second.
Yeah. So first, give you a sense of how things like went down. Five or six shots from the sniper, and then thump of the counter sniper team seconds later, and then almost simultaneously a couple of other shots by the sniper, the shooter. And those couple of other shots went behind Melanie and I and hit the people in the bleachers directly behind us. But I knew
the fireman.
Yes, Corey.
Yeah.
But I knew that the shooter was down, but that there might be somebody else out there, and that we needed to start focusing on getting the crowd moving. But again, now that I knew that shooter was down, hey, you got to know where the shooter is, just so people are watching, so that you can figure out, one, if it's possible to move people, and two, if you do move people, how to best use cover and concealment to get people out if in the event there is another shooter, right? So that's all the things that are going through my mind. And all around us, like, there were people who were traumatized by this. And a lot of that is exasperated by the fact that it was 95 degrees out. People were sitting in the sun for hours, like maybe they're not drinking enough water. Rich, there were heat casualties. There was a lot of them that needed to be carried to the medevac tent. And people just started going down. I mean, people were panicking.
Well, it's
not in a
anxiety.
negative way. Yeah, not in a negative way. I don't mean it like that, but it was like freaking 95 degrees out. A lot of old elderly folks there. I mean, so we just started carrying people to the evacuation tent as fast as possible, and started moving the crowd out. And here I am, like been in more firefights than I can count, but I got my wife there with me, and
very different. A loved one versus a battle buddy, bro. Are you
very
kidding?
different.
You're
Very different. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, I've got to get these people out, but I've got to get my wife out safely. And as we're moving the crowd and moving the crowd towards the exit, I turn around and there were all these wheelchair bound folks behind us that they were stuck. I mean, they weren't left behind, but you got like 15, 20, 30,000 people going to one exit. You had all these wheelchair bound people there. And, you know, elderly people in the wheelchairs and elderly people pushing them over gravel, grass. Like they were just targets. And so we went back, me and a couple, like just a couple Trump supporters and my friend JD Longo went back and got some of those folks and corralled them where they at least had some cover, had a guy in a wheelchair, pushed him out, got my wife secure in a car. And then I went back in to get the rest of the wheelchairs, and just one by one, me and a bunch of, you know, America First patriots slowly push these people in wheelchairs back to the car to get them out. And I stayed. I mean, I don't know. When did I text you? I texted you that night. I probably got out. I probably got back to the car at 8:30.
Oh, when you finally said you were home, it was hours later.
Yeah. I mean, like we stayed like on what I would call, like, for lack of a better term, the objective area, just making sure everybody got out. And honestly, Rich, I mean, the police, the Secret Service, I mean, it was overwhelming. Like, what do you do with all the people? Let me tell you something else. The fact that people, first of all, Trump reacting in that moment the way that he did, that is leadership shit right there.
Oh
that is leadership. That is where the rubber meets the road. Trump met the moment.
Yeah.
He met the moment, and he should. But I didn't get to see all. I saw him stand up, but the Secret Service was all around him, and I was from the side. But I saw his fist, and I heard the crowd go crazy. But what does it say about the people in that rally? Again, tens of thousands of people who at that time we thought there were two shooters, and I'm screaming, "Sniper! Everybody get down! Get down!" No one stampedes.
Cheering. Yep. Yeah.
No one stampedes. Like, it was just unbelievable. It was an unbelievable thing.
Let's get into some very uncomfortable talk from you were alluding to some of this before, and I have a video which is kind of long. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I just want to preface it with this. I've been to, I don't even know how many events with a president. I've been to Trump rallies before he was president, during his presidency, and after his presidency. It is unbelievably baffling to me how this man got on the roof. I'm sorry. I can't. We just can't let this slide. We're hearing all this conflicting stuff that, number one, I think everyone's going to learn more information about this, and they're not going to be happy to hear they're not going to be happy to learn what they're going to learn. This, you don't delegate the president's safety to another outfit. That's number one. Folks, they will remove ladders to buildings that have line of sight. They will block stairways that can lead you to a roof of a building that has a line of sight. They will weld manhole covers to the freaking street closed when the president's motorcade is coming down the road. I don't know how many more examples I got to give people. They go to extreme lengths to make sure that there isn't an opportunity like the one that was presented to this man. This is Hat Tip Mike TV. People are like, well, it had to be at least 30 seconds, from the time people saw the guy climbing up the ladder. No, it wasn't. It was a lot more than that, actually. Watch this, Sean.
Doing the job, I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful place with a gorgeous ocean.
Look, they're all pointing.
At
The
my
Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look, there he is right there.
There he is.
Right there, see him?
Home
He's
position.
laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
Home position. On the roof. Police officer right there.
Fighting like hell to get a senator
What's happening?
elected and to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look.
And it's
There
not
he is.
easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be
They're
here.
alerting the police.
Dangerous people.
40
Criminals.
seconds, Sean.
We have criminals.
40 seconds.
We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here. And it's much tougher than if it happened to be
10 seconds
ever.
since first pointing
In
out.
recorded history, we're the best border. In fact, if they could ever put up a chart, I don't know if they can do it. Do you guys have access to that chart that I love so much?
20
You don't
seconds.
mind if I go off teleprompter, do you?
I'm always telling my
Because these
people. a story.
teleprompters are so damn
Here he
boring.
goes,
I
my
try to
favorite-
explain that.
My favorite
there's
graphic.
it. Wow. You guys are doing it. They're getting better with time. My guys, take a look at that chart. Take a look at the arrow on the bottom. See the big red arrow, right?
Minute 20 at this point now. 40 seconds since alerting the police officer, specifically, who was 5 feet away when this tape begins. So they're already telling the police officer there's somebody on the roof. It goes on and on. So there's like a like 40 to 60 second gap if you think the police officer is a moron who is living in his own la la land, Sean. You know what I mean? So here comes the moment that you described where he turns and points to the graph.
So that's when I left office. That was the lowest point, and that comes right from the
Head turn.
government services, comes right out of Border Patrol. Take a
Head
look
turn.
at that. So that arrow is the lowest amount of illegal immigration ever in recorded history into our country.
Milk bar, sorry.
And then the worst president in the history of our country took over. And look what happened to our country. Probably 20 million people.
Okay, you see the person with the firearm right there, ladies and gentlemen? That is the sheriff's department, I believe. And he's just moseying around. Well, pointing what? Blah, blah, blah. You got to be effing kidding me, Sean. It's a minute and 52 seconds at this point, and the point is coming.
And that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old, and if you
They're screaming now. Shots. They're the first 2 shots, and then followed by another 2 squeezed off. At this point, there is another police officer who peeks up the ladder. So you see the guy walking on the ground. At that point, 10 seconds prior, he gets up pretty quick by all accounts. He gets up there, Sean, peeks up, sees him, and I don't want to say the piece of shit's name. He turns to him. The police officer then dips back down, which probably saved saved Trump's life.
And the cops. I mean, like if you have somebody with a rifle trained on you, you're coming up over a ladder. Like, I mean,
unbelievable though amount of time, folks, has gone by. This is, to me,
I haven't seen that before.
Unacceptable. And they're matching the words, Sean, with the events. Like you can hear the speech. It is that timing is accurate. I mean, you can hear the speech and the moments in that speech. Just so people understand, we're talking about a half a second in which the president then turns his head and the bullet goes on the side of his cheek instead of in the back of the head about here, which would have been all she wrote. So this would have been, it's just, I don't think people are appreciating how close it was for this story to have ended differently. I think Donald Trump is appreciating it from what I'm hearing, what I understand, but I don't think like the media and, we're not doing a good enough job explaining to people how close this got and how unacceptable this really is. I remember when Barack Obama was president, it's unbelievable. How did they not clear that building themselves? Oh, we let the police do it. Bullshit, Sean. Something is wrong here.
I'm telling you, listen, in the heat of the moment, like many things were going through my head, but in the heat of the moment, my first responsibility was to find out where the shooter was.
Yeah.
And instantly, even amidst all that chaos, it
You
was
could tell.
building or water tower.
Building a water tower. End of
But
story.
there's no way that could be the case because the Secret Service would be there. They would have it. It doesn't make sense. But I was wrong. And
how are they not on the roof?
I don't know how they
are not on the roof. How is the cat team not on the roof? Like,
I don't know.
What the fuck, bro?
Or like you have, here's another thing. Like you have all of these, you have people there. You have people there who are saying, hey, there's a guy on the roof. Rather than climb up and look, you have a radio, call your sniper team, have them look. Or call the tactical operations center. There's a tactical operations center on site and say, I have suspicious activity on this, this key terrain, which you most certainly have labeled on a terrain map. Like you most certainly have that drawn into whatever plan that you're doing. Get ISR up in the air. Get a little drone up in the air. I mean, anything.
They're supposed to be in the air, brother.
They're supposed to be in the air.
Supposed to already be there. That's what people have to understand.
That's what I'm saying. I don't get it, Rich. I really don't.
Fire, and he's going, where's the shooter? He's trying to ascertain where the shooter's coming from, as you should do. Is it safe to move people in this direction? Where's the cover? You got it. None of that you can answer until you know where the shooter's coming from.
Right.
And you're thinking in your head, especially with you and your experience, I would have done the same thing. There's no way it could be coming from that building, of course, because Secret Service would be up there. Because Secret Service would assault with the drone if they weren't up there for some really crazy reason. This is totally, listen, I don't want to go down the grassy knoll shit. I'm simply saying this isn't, you don't need to go down the grassy knoll with this. This is worse than the grassy knoll.
Incomprehensible. Listen, it's incomprehensible. And a couple things. There are members of Congress saying they struggle to see how this isn't deliberate. Okay. There are members of Congress saying that. So this is not conspiracy theory territory to speculate. I think it's okay and necessary to ask these very, very important questions. So there's one.
Did we? Okay.
No, I was just going to say that there are, in situations like this, sometimes shit happens, Murphy's Law, but not with something like this. Like a private 5 weeks into basic training, if he were planning that event, he would look at that building and say, well, we got to have people up there. You don't have to be General Patton to know that that is a huge risk.
In the prone row on top of the nearest building. First of all, the shot's about 100 to 150 meters. That's absolutely nothing.
It's nothing. That's basic rifle marksmanship. And by the way, with a clear line of sight.
Clear line of sight.
The
only, I mean, honestly, him being rushed by the police officer and Trump turning his head, a couple of things happened here where, like, I don't know how you cannot see providence in this. Like, this is an easy shot. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not, you don't have to get out of basic with expert infantryman badge to get this shot. Like, this is an easy shot. And a couple of things just went correct. Actually, that distance is like the perfect range for that firearm. The trajectory, for people who don't understand what I'm talking about, if you want to shoot 300 meters out, you have to aim a little higher. If you want to shoot 25 meters in, you got to aim a little lower. You have the trajectory of the bullet going up and then down. 150 meters is exactly where you strike that rifle.
You don't have to do minute of angle calculations. You don't have to do windage calculations on that shot. A basic training, basic rifle marksmanship person, 150 yards, 150 meters. It was less than 150 meters. Is nothing.
Line up the irons, bro.
I kind of have a theory. I could be wrong. And by the way, it's completely unacceptable if I'm correct. But you have the two counter sniper teams that were there. I saw them when we came in. Just have a tendency to look for those sorts of things.
Yeah.
But like, you watch that video and the guy pulls his face back from the rifle. If I'm thinking in the chaos of the moment that there's no way that the Secret Service, I mean, of course, Secret Service is going to be on that building. If I'm thinking that in the moment, What do you think the odds are of the counter sniper team, who are not Secret Service guys? They're local law enforcement cert SWAT guys who theoretically speaking, Secret Service ties in with them because local law enforcement and SWAT guys know the local area and terrain better. That's the idea. That's the idea behind it. But I don't think that those guys were Secret Service snipers. So what they might, my thing is like, maybe they thought that was some sort of friendly team there. And look,
but you know where members of your team are. You know where they're positioned. You know who's in what position.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it was shitty training. Maybe it was poor communications. Maybe they looked it on their scope and said, that has to be friendly. I don't want to kill a friendly. That would be terrible. And by the way, that process, 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
2 seconds, but in 2 seconds, really, 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 really bad stuff happens.
As you just saw.
Yeah. So even though it might not seem like a long time to a civilian, 2 seconds, 3 seconds while you're processing that as a counter sniper is an eternity. It's an eternity. So I don't know. All of this will clearly come out in the coming weeks for sure. But like, oh man,
Sean, there's the, I mean, just to give people the idea of 2 seconds, that first round ran off at around the 2-minute mark even, and now it's 2:02 on this tape.
Really?
So it goes to show you how long 2 seconds really is in a situation like this. Also, you got to ask yourself, well, first of all, I think we're going to find out, and I'm being facetious here, we're going to find out the FBI had information, didn't do shit. That's what we're going to find out. And we're also going to find out, like, okay, let me just put it this way. How even a 20-year-old know-nothing moron would know that you cannot climb up on a rooftop with a firearm when a president or former president is giving a speech 100 meters away, 150 meters away. How the hell did he know that that building would be clear and he would just be safe to get up on that building, Sean? Come on. Well, who would try that?
Secret Service is saying that local law enforcement failed to have it on lockdown, but that's not their job.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. You don't delegate that.
It's not even.
That smells like shit to me.
It's not what they're trained to do. It's not like, yeah, they could do it, but the Secret Service's job, it is, again, if I realized that in the moment, the advance team who was there months prior absolutely had that building flagged. It's just like, and how do you get a ladder up there? Like, I mean, yeah, you could get a rifle and a backpack, you know, detach the upper receiver from the lower receiver, and then when you get up there, pop the 2 pins in. But like, so
he shoulder slung it.
Yeah, I mean,
shoulder slung it and went up the ladder.
You think he carried it around, open carried?
Dude, you can see him getting in the prone position in that video at the edge of the roof. It's not that far. Like, look at the distance, you know, and it's like he's getting in the prone position right then. I don't see anything. I have a very clear visual of him. I don't see anything, you know, and maybe, again, you can't see everything. So it's possible. But think about this. There are people who are already spotting him up there in the prone position. He disappears here and there, but never out of line of sight completely. He's never out of visual completely. You're telling me if he carried a book bag up there and then popped the upper and lower receiver together in that time it takes to do it? We're not talking about a trained individual. We're talking about a 20-year-old kid, or at least, I mean, a kid to me. I'm 40 now? But, you know, we're not talking about somebody who, you know, spends his off time in the barracks, Sean, learning how to slap that puppy together again real quick. You know, like this is somebody, you know, who's up there clearly fidgeting around, trying to get in what he thinks is the best position. He's not exactly, I mean, he's not exactly a professional is what I'm saying. Like, and they didn't notice that. They wouldn't have noticed that.
I don't know, Rich. I don't understand
how
it happened.
Delegate that to local authorities anyway. And
I mean, like,
giving someone an opportunity, Sean.
Well, I mean, I was told. So a couple things. So my campaign manager, his father is a Secret Service agent. He's a great guy. He actually just got accepted into the Secret Service agent program and went down there to Maryland to start his initial training. But I know that when he was going through the process, the Secret Service, like, we're not even close to getting enough applicants to do the job. So one, they're strapped for people right off the bat. Number two, RNC is happening now. Obviously, you had the Trump rally last week. You had Jill Biden requesting, Secret Service protection wherever the hell she was going. Then you had Joe Biden and the Biden administration throwing up roadblocks for President Trump to plus up his detail. And I don't give a shit what they're saying. They're clearly saying that, but they 100% made it more difficult for Trump to get more Secret Service agents. So there's that. Like maybe they were operating with a skeleton crew, and that kind of my assumption. It might be true because they definitely had Department of Homeland Security augmentees and agents on the ground in lieu of Secret Service agents who, again, they're trained to know what they're doing, but they're not Secret Service.
The guy next to the sheriff. The guy next to the sheriff, that's what he looks like to me because they wear that brown get up. I don't even know, but that's what DHS. That's what it looks like to me. I could be wrong. Maybe that is both members of the sheriff's department, but I don't know. It looks like the
sheriff's department, their role on site was SWAT team response. I mean, the sheriff's department had their armored vehicle and they had their SWAT guys all around. I'm not sure if the snipers were a part of the sheriffs. I don't know that the sheriff has sniper teams attached to them, but certainly their SWAT team does. So I don't know, but the agents there, they definitely had Department of Homeland Security agents in, Secret Service attire, and having been with Trump a couple times, like there were some familiar faces there of Secret Service agents who were always there. There were also some new faces as well. But
we've had problems with them in the past, Sean. One of them was on Facebook. Can we when he was president? I mean, this is unbelievable level of maybe that's part of what you're saying. Maybe they're not getting the best anymore because you remember the woman, I can't remember her name, but I'm talking about the woman who was talking about not taking a bullet for Trump, letting something happen to him. And that was when he was president, so maybe the ranks of Secret Service have just come a long way since my buddy Gorman got plucked out of, because I'm sure you probably had buddies got plucked out for Secret Service too. I mean, that happened to us quite a bit. But they were so selective. Gorman was like a beast. He was a monster. And he was also just one of those Captain America guys. He was the cleanest, he was that guy. I don't know what else to say, but make the Captain America analogy. Maybe it's just not like that anymore. I mean, that was a long time ago, Sean. It's 2024 now? That's 20 years ago I'm talking about. Maybe it isn't what it used to be. God, I know the teams aren't what they used to be. That's for damn sure. I have friends tell me that you just can't. SFAS is not what it used to be.
You're bringing up something that's I think important as well.
Standard, brother.
It standards and training.
Yeah.
Were they just? I mean, everyone. Everyone's giving that woman Secret Service agent a hard time, and maybe they should be. But I don't know. Is she just poorly trained, or can she not do the job? I mean, because if she's not trained well. And they just threw her in there. I mean, it's not really her fault. If she, you know what I mean? If their training standards have so diminished, this is a lot of speculation, but
it's possible.
It's absolutely possible. And clearly something went wrong that is totally unacceptable. Should have never, ever happened. I mean, when you are relying on the crowd to be your effing spotters, there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Yeah. I mean, I know you got something you got to do and you got to take off. I just want to ask you, where do we go from here now? They're bullshitting. They're not going to tamp this language down. Look at how they reacted to it. They're absolutely disgusting human beings, Sean, among us. They're really.
I completely agree. You know what I'm tired of, Rich? I am tired of every time some leftist psychopath kills or tries to kill Republicans, the effing narrative from the media is we need to come together and do some soul searching as a nation. F you. Yeah. No, the time is now to dig in and pick a freaking side. That's the time. Because when the right, now, if on the off chance and the rare chance or time where someone on the right commits violence against someone on the left. It almost never ever happens. I just really want to be clear about that. But it's always some massive government response, right-wing extremism, domestic extremists, Department of Homeland Security is involved. F that. F that. These people, and by the way, if you don't believe me, look at how they've reacted after an assassination attempt. They've doubled down on the crazy for the most part.
No, yeah.
Kudos to MSNBC for pulling Joe and Mika off the air. Those two ass clowns, those two. I mean, Rich, how many times have we shown clips on my show where you and I are just these people are crazy? The Trump is Hitler, Trump's a dictator. If Trump gets elected, 270 years of the American experiment gone. MSNBC pulling them is an admission to the damage that those two people have done to this country. And that happened because of Biden and all of his media allies and the Democrat Party saying it. And it wasn't, listen, people are like, oh, Trump says stuff too. It's it's saying
Not
that, hey, if Trump says if Biden's going to win, America will cease to exist. Okay, so yeah, Trump says stuff like that. And by the way, it's completely true, right? But that is a completely different thing. It's disingenuous to me. It's not an analogous comparison because the media for 10 damn years.
I'm not even prepared to submit to that. That's bullshit. That's not what they do.
Trump is a Russian agent. Trump is a traitor. The New York Times, the day after the assassination attempt, said Trump was a traitor. And then you have these assholes in the media saying Trump is Hitler, Trump is Mussolini, Trump's a dictator. Oh, our democracy is going to end. This 10-year effort to label Trump as something that he wasn't led to this.
Total lie. That's the difference. It's a total lie. This was we allowed, and this is why I'm not willing to do that again.
We
allowed them the attempted assassination, near successful assassination of Steve Scalise, then the House Majority Whip, to just go unanswered. Oh, we can't blame Bernie Sanders, even though we worked for Bernie Sanders. We can't blame Hillary Clinton, even though we worked for Hillary Clinton. We can't blame the media. He posted, and then the FBI does. This is why I hate these people. They run to Facebook. They tell Zuckerberg to pull his shit down. Not before we screenshot it. Why were we the only website out there to post his post showing exactly what he said before? I mean, hours before he went and did that. He was under the impression that Donald Trump was a traitor who colluded with Vladimir Putin to steal the election, and that Republicans were his enablers in Congress. And oh, by the way, if they succeed in repealing and replacing Obamacare, as Elizabeth Warren said in the video he posted, millions of Americans will die. This is what he's looking at. And by the way, sign my change.org petition to remove the traitor because the Republican enablers won't do it. I'm going to go shoot a couple of them, and I'll be back to check on how many signatures I have later. I mean, this is nuts. And then we just kind of, even people like Sean Hannity, man. Oh, we can't blame them for his actions. Oh, yes, we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, we can. They do this. This is their MO. They killed Malcolm X like this. They never get somebody like I Am 4 to go and do it, dude. Some black op dude. They nudge, and then they give motive, which is that nudging. Then they give them opportunity, and then they step to the side and let the crazy happen, bro. That's what they do. And in the case of Malcolm X, they put 2 innocent people in jail for 20 years.
Exactly.
Well, they let the shooter go be a fucking community pillar until his death, which was attended. His funeral was attended by the lieutenant governor of New Jersey. He was in a Cory Booker ad, bro. So don't tell me they don't do this shit on purpose. They do. They absolutely do. By the way, BlackRock just featured this guy.
Exactly. How about that?
Holy crap, come on. They find these marks, they nudge them, and that's how it's done, man. It's not done by some people got to get this idea out of their head of they're going to go get some trained assassin from Langley to go, pull some friggin' hitman style thing with a shaved head and a tattoo on the back of his neck. That's not how it works. They push the impressionable. They play the impressionable. Then they give them the opportunity and they let it happen. Period. End of story. That makes you no less complicit. That makes you no less guilty, Sean, than if you put the gun in the guy's hand to do it himself. And by the way, speaking of this guy, Jim Comey was supposedly a Republican too. Robert Mueller was supposedly a Republican too. They can take that scam and stick it up their asses. We ran, and I don't know about the ethics of this, but I may like release a report. We have machine learning model for voters, consumers, all sorts of attributes from behavioral to automotive. I ran an individual on this guy. The only thing Republican about him is his registration. Everything else hit back liberal progressive.
I mean, he gave to Act Blue. Rich, this is such a good point.
You know about this then, right? So he very limited donation history, but it's all labeled liberal progressive. Even his socioeconomic status is professional class upbringing. Like he had, like I don't know exactly what that is yet, but typically it means he was raised by people who have like professional class degrees in something. You know what I'm saying? Like a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So like everything hit back as liberal. And so they like dement and twist these people and then just turn them loose. Don't tell me if I can find that information, they can't find that information.
What was crazy to me about what, and this is why I'm saying it's time to pick a side, dig in, because I'm telling you, Rich,
drinking from this mug.
What's that?
For the first time on the show, I usually drink out of my pumpkin mug, but I'm drinking out of my mother-in-law's Trump mug. You have to show support for the guy. You have to show support for the guy. They just tried to kill him.
I mean, listen, I called out Biden after the assassination attempt and basically said, I mean, it got like 90,000 likes. So clearly people, Twitter's not emblematic of America as a whole, but I think people are tired and understand that Biden did and all the Democrats had a hand in this. When he's in Philadelphia, like he's the damn emperor from Star Wars with red backgrounds saying that half of us are domestic terrorists. Don't tell me that you didn't have a hand in this, causing this stuff. You clearly did. And what's crazy to me, the amount of people who came after me saying, well, the shooter's a Republican. First of all, who gives a shit if he was? I think I know what his intentions were. I mean, he wasn't, but I'm just saying, like, who cares about that? Like, why is that even relevant? Like, it's not relevant.
But don't you find it funny that it's like the perfect state that's in the middle of a realignment? It's like the perfect state for being able to say, but he's a registered Republican. Like this is a state emblematic of the realignment going on in this country, probably more than any other state. You know what I mean? Like you have your typical registered Republicans that would be like, I don't know, let's say psychiatrists. And 20 years ago, they were super Republican. Hell, they just voted for Mitt Romney 12 years ago, but now they're not. They haven't changed their registration. Registration is static. It's not, identification of who you are and what you are is fluid, much more fluid. So, it all just smells like shit. Sean, it really does. It all just smells to high heaven. And then maybe you do sprinkle in some kind of incompetence here and there. But don't tell me, how many shows you and I have done, how many shows I've come on your show, you come on my show. We have been talking about this for months.
I mean, Rich, and people would like, people said that we were not our audiences, but people by and large, like that we did get attacked. Like, oh, we're crazy. Are you kidding? No, actually, we're right.
Mediaite and right wing watch. I think they clipped you and I. They clipped me and Gorka too. This guy says they're gonna kill Donald Trump. Okay, you want to take that down now?
Yeah, it really is unbelievable. But like going back to the assassination attempt, I really want to say that the people who were there, the Patriots stood up and I mean, I've been shot at before. I have training. These people haven't, and they did not relent. There were people when we were bringing wheelchairs out. There were people coming back in with me. It was a small part of a much greater effort, and these people deserve all the credit in the world. And the media, to hell with them, because they would have you believe that these people are evil, vile, racist, xenophobes, nothing. And I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. And that rally where shit hit the fan was absolute vindication and proof of that.
Wow, man, I got to tell you, I know you got to run, but I'll see you Wednesday, you know?
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
thanks for coming on. You know, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it was, we're less than 48 hours, really, right? I mean, geez, it's still fresh. It's got to still be fresh in your mind. Thank God you and Commander Melanie are safe, and everybody else is, you know, that we know. It's tragic, unfortunately, that there are those who aren't. And
yeah,
it could have been even worse. Like, you know, but I'll tell you what, Sean, for that family, that innocent bystanders who are just watching a Trump rally, it is the worst case scenario for them.
It is the worst case scenario for them. They are gonna, their loved one is, they're never gonna be able to give a hug to their loved one again. I mean,
He's
and
the perfect daddy, his daughter said.
yeah, absolutely terrible.
Sick.
Absolutely terrible.
But tell people when your show is, where they can
Yeah,
see
it's tonight, every
what's
Monday
going
through
on.
every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Tonight, we're just going to be talking about what everybody else is talking about. The assassination attempt at the rally.
Yes, and yes, I can. I just saw your message.
Yeah, if you can, that's great. And then, of course, there's stuff to talk about, like the classified docs case, as you mentioned, completely gone, lawfare failing. And then Trump is set to pick his VP tonight. And I think I don't know. We'll see. I think of the people
too.
Let's go JD Vance. Like, that's who, I mean, people like, I don't know how people feel about that, but I'm just saying, I think that
well, you know him personally too, right? You know him.
I do. He's a friend of mine. Yeah, he's a good guy. We ran in the same cycle. He made it to the finish line. I didn't, but he's a good guy, you know? But yeah, so if you can, this is a special edition. We'll just talk about all this stuff. And but yes, that's tonight. And then the rest of the week is going to be fire, man. There's lots going on.
Yeah, that's before. That's before. I mean, I'll text you what it is, because at this point now, with all the crazy going on, like normally maybe 2 weeks ago, I would have just said on air, you know. But you know what my kid does, and they're off to one of the races, and that's tonight. She goes on tonight. I would normally just blurt it out, but after, like, you really have to watch yourself in this day and age, and I don't want some lunatic going on, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to say it, but you know what it is. I mean, you probably know what I'm talking about. That isn't till after, so I can do it. So let's do it.
Well, you let me know. I've got I'm going on Newsmax with Ed Henry, like right after, but if you can make it great, if not, that's cool too. I know it's last minute, but my show is 5 to 6 every night right here on Rumble.
It's a great show. My 4-year-old loves the intro theme music. So awesome. Yeah, I'll see you then, brother. But
all right, see you, my friend.
Blessings to you and yours. I'll see you soon.
All right, see you, Rich.
Sean Parnell, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Parnell. You saw how he jumped into action there. You know, that's the thing. What he just said is because it's good to have someone like Sean around in a situation like that. And God, look at some of the others who aren't trained. Like he said, God bless them, but in the mind of someone who is trained, you would say it can't be that building because Secret Service would have cleared it. Like, it's inconceivable. You can't even comprehend the possibility that they didn't clear that building. So no wonder there are elected members of Congress saying that something really stinks here. Somebody opened a door. That isn't, like I said, that is not grassy knoll talk. You'd have to be naive to think something else or to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially since I'm telling you, you're going to find out that somebody was on the radar and nothing again happened. The Tsarnaev brothers on the radar. Russia tells us, big bad Russia tells us, you got to look out for these two, man. They're extremists. Watch out. Then the Boston Marathon bombing happens because they're sitting there with their thumbs up their ass chasing political opponents instead. The Pulse nightclub shooter, his poppy, is sitting behind Hillary Clinton at a rally in Florida. They know about this guy too. They do nothing. How many gay people end up dead? Tell me what champions you are of gay rights again. The San Bernardino shooter, him and his lovely wife and their caliphate cubs. What a lovely family that is. They did nothing. What's the point? Why do we even have them anymore? What is the point? They don't stop anything. Not with bulk metadata collection, not with secret surveillance courts. They don't stop anything. What they do is spy on Republican lawmakers and hold bribery charges over their head so they can't go in and cast votes to hold Merrick Garland accountable. And that's why I'm telling you guys, you better, if you're partisan in nature and you're like, oh, I'm just going to vote for this one because of this or that one, because you better get out of your head. Because there is no way those two Republicans from California were ever going to vote to hold Merrick Garland accountable. One bribed some dude out of the race. The FBI is going to have that over him forever. Because that's what they do. Go, crime fighter Joe. Go, crime fighter Joe. Go after those grandmas and grandpas with your big bad self. Why don't you chase another veteran through the woods of New Jersey? That's what you do with your time instead of actually fighting criminals or going after terrorists. You plot to subvert presidencies, climb up the telephone pole outside of Trump Tower and spy on him in an interview with Don Smith on Blog Talk Radio. You don't do shit. Your existence is pointless and your mission statement is outdated. Your mission creep is obvious. It's time to close the doors. I'll handle me and mine. People like Corey were forced to. He's got to give his life. He had to give his life over it because you don't do your fucking job. How many more of these stories are we going to get? How many more of these failures are we going to tolerate? The stupid ass Republicans. Yeah, let's fund the FISA court. Sure, let's reauthorize it. It's so important. So crucial. We need these tools. How old was she, dude? Answer me that. Or he. Who'd they catch you with? I'm so sick of it. It's all a scam. It's all a fucking scam. While you're at it, you can throw the rest of the alphabets in there. Or you're not operating on U.S. territory. Bullshit. That's all they do at this point. When they're not, okay, starting coups in like sovereign countries, you know, where we have international agreements with other great powers who have weapons of mass destruction. That's what they do. It's unbelievable. Truly, folks, it's unbelievable. I just don't see the point anymore. Bank robberies? And I don't know about you, but at this point, I can't stand banks. I don't give a shit. I don't really care. Want to hear the truth? I don't give a shit. I don't care who robs a bank. I don't give a damn. They're insured. They're just going to take it out of your back pocket anyway. Here's another idea. How about stop sending it to Ukraine and then you can hit up the FDIC instead? There's a reason the country cheered for John Dillinger, by the way. Let's not rewrite history. Speaking of which, we have a couple of minutes here. Sean Parnell alluded to something. I want to play this thing from Brett Baer real quick.
Just got off the phone with a former president, and he said this: I am thrilled that a judge had the courage and wisdom to do this. This has big implications, not just for this case, but for other cases. The special counsel worked with everyone to try to take me down. This is a big deal. It only makes this convention more positive. This will be an amazing week. He said again and again that this was a big decision. He pointed to, Justice Thomas and the questioning in the Supreme Court on this very issue about the special counsel, but seemed to indicate that he thought that this would have implications for other cases.
Okay, and of course, that's what Will Scharf was referring to when Will was on. Justice Thomas did write an adjoining opinion, which basically gave them a roadmap, basically saying that Jack Smith is unconstitutional. He also added a bunch of other little tidbits in there, which Justice Thomas will do if you aren't paying attention. And he will basically give the team that he believes on the right side of the law a roadmap to continue with further challenges. So given what that language did say, if you're the Trump team, you're obviously thinking the rest of the charges are in deep trouble as well. This is positive developments for the country because we don't want this stuff. But again, my big concern, let me tell a story real quick. What do I got? 2 minutes? Okay. My son, when we were in Florida, had loves tennis. Love tennis. Now he's more into music, but was very gifted tennis player. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, we get him one of the best tennis players we could find and teach him how to play tennis. We were very lucky. There was somebody who was pro that was spending his days teaching. Crazy liberal, man. I like the guy. I got along with him, but man, he was like a crazy liberal. Anyway, Gillum plus 12, Gillum plus 14. The day after Andrew Gillum lost, I watched him have, and this is 24 hours later, mind you, I watched him have an utter meltdown on the tennis court over Andrew Gillum losing and being super pissed off. You know, the CNN poll, how could it be that wrong? But I mean, like in tears with disappointment and flipping out. When you do this stuff, the Russia probe, Mueller, right? Then Mueller wasn't doing anything. So somebody decided they would take it into their hands. Like Sean said, they are creating these monsters with lies and then turning them loose. When these monsters face disappointments like this, and some, believe me, somewhere in America right now, there is one of those monsters thinking about alternative plans because lawfare is not working. So I don't know how you could possibly not say this is their fault and be on guard and be concerned. It's the same phenomena, like I told you, when it comes to school shootings and other mass shooting events. They know they are called what is called they are acting as what is called a contagion. It is what they used to call the Columbine effect. They play a pivotal role in passing that off to people and giving them motive and inspiring, and that's really the word, inspiring them, and they don't give a shit. Maybe that's one thing federal law enforcement has done productive for years, but nobody's listened to them anyway. Academia, same thing. Study after study after study. Pass to the editorial, management people at media outlets, telling them not to do this, telling them not to name people, telling them not to do this and that, and goad people and fire people up. They don't care. And it gets to a point where the only logical conclusion is that they know exactly what they're doing and they're doing it on purpose. This is not the first event. We let Steve Scalise go. He let it go. Frankly, he let it go. Are we going to let this one go too and wait for the next one? It's not the gun's fault. It's not. This is their fault. They know there are vulnerable marks in this society that they could use to carry out their horrible, heinous intentions, and they do it. In any other letter of the law, that would be called a co-conspirator, but no, not here. They call it journalism. It's not journalism. It's political terrorism. All right. 2:01. I guess I'll see you guys at 5. Don't forget, live at 5. Live at 5. Savage Wednesday will now be Savage Monday. And we'll probably have the VP pick. Do we have it already? I got a message before saying it's coming. So if I know Trump, he's got to be, looks like Patrick Basham just sent me his post-assassination attempt poll. Trump 50, Biden 41. I mean, that's the thing. Twice now, events have done our poll, have made our poll stale. The first one, of course, we released right before the debate and the charges. And the conviction and the debate. So then we had to go back and do another one. Now we just did this one, and I'm not sure it's stale. I mean, how much more? He's got Trump +9. I don't know how much more our polling based on our methodology would be able to find other than a Trump +6, which is where we're at now. I did add a bunch of other stuff to it. If you guys haven't seen it, press release has not gone out. Look, NBC News spiked their poll too. It's like bad taste to be out there. Patrick waited, but ours was like right during it. I don't know that was an appropriate time to put out a press release about a poll, Trump v. Biden. But you can go to the front page of bigdatapoll.com right now, and you can look at the trend line. We put the trend line in there with confidence intervals. You can see that it's, again, I'm going to say this. I don't care what 538 says. I don't care what the NBC News poll says. This is not a particularly close race, and you can actually see post-debate. Let me put it up here real quick. You can actually see post-debate that we've been pretty consistent this entire time with no big gaps jumping. And here you can see that Trump is now leading Biden by a consistent amount. And it's not only that Biden fell. You can clearly see here that Trump gained, and that's the confidence interval without leaners, just so you know. It's also the one with the generic someone else. All right. So what we call the generic head-to-head. There is a standard head-to-head too, where we do not give people another option. And that one was a little bit more favorable to Biden because, of course, this one is Trump +8, without leaners. With leaners, it's Trump +4. And then because Biden does win the leaners, he gets people to come home. It's just not nearly enough. And actually, sorry, it's Trump +5. The head-to-head, standard head-to-head, is Trump +4 with leaners, and it's Trump +6 without leaners. But again, it's not just Biden falling. It is also Trump rising. Trump now is just right under, he's above 50 and right under that threshold where we round up, and that would have rounded him up to 53, but it's not. It's 52. All right. So 52-48 in the standard head-to-head, and a little bit over 52-47 in the generic. So because Biden's losing some of his votes to someone else where Trump is not. All right. Whether that really helps Kennedy or not, I don't know, folks, because if it depends who a West or a Stein would definitely be the recipients of those votes. Kennedy is not. That's less clear. Democrats don't seem to like RFK at all. And the more time goes on, the less appeal he has to even Biden voters who don't know who else to vote for. All right. So it would be beneficial for Republicans to have West and Stein on the ballot as well. Even Chase Oliver, by the way. But he's lagging behind Stein. All right. So with that in mind, it's 2:05. I'm going to kick rocks so I can do some other work. Maybe have a little bite to eat before I go on Sean, and then I'll see you guys in a couple hours. Thanks so much to my special guests, of course, Will Scharf, Trump attorney, and also the Republican candidate for Missouri's Attorney General, plus Sean Parnell, our good friend, who was there at the rally during the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, both of which came on less than 48 hours in Sean's case after the event. In Will's case, less than 48 minutes. And he said, yeah, I'll come on to talk about the decision. So we very much appreciate both of them for making the time to do that, and welcome them back on the show anytime. They're always welcome here. And also our sponsors, Freedom Gold, Jam and Bean, still, of course, their links are in the description, and you can go check them out. You support them for supporting us, and that's how the world goes around. Big Data Poll's got a new form up for the public polling project. So we closed the book on the other one, just shut it out. New one is up. There's already been some donations. I'm not sure how much it is, or donations. I mean, it's contributions, because, of course, the public polling project is a publicly funded project, contrary to stupid ass critics who don't know what they're talking about. There is no political entity allowed to donate. Even if they did, I would send it back, but it's not. It's a public facing contribution form where if you were to click on it, you're able to see who's donating, unless they can make themselves anonymous. You can too, by the way, but ironically, most people don't. And you're not going to see some huge anonymous donation. There's a donor wall that looks just like GoFundMe or GoSendGo, and it's all very transparent. So check it out. We already have. I was just actually looking. We're already about 11% of the way to our new poll, which is very cool. I labeled it the summer poll. In this economy, you know, back in 2020, it was very clear to me. In 2020, people still had more money. And by this time, the public polling project was funded so fast I couldn't keep up. This is not the case this time. I know people are hurt by inflation, and the economic situation is not what it was even after the COVID shutdown. So I labeled it summer instead of labeling it like August. Technically, we have until September 21st to be a summer poll, and maybe I'll change it. We'll call it the Labor Day poll. We'll see. And hopefully it picks up, and maybe we'll even be able to track. In 2020, we were able to track and do multiple states. And that would be, of course, that's the goal, but we'll see how it goes. All right. With that in mind, I'm going to kick rocks. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and share them far and wide, and subscribe. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. We'll see you on Wednesday. For those of you who are going to watch, we'll see you in a couple hours on Parnell Battleground Live on Rumble with Sean Parnell. Battleground Live. Live at 5, baby. All right, guys. I'm out. Deuces. Ba-dum-bum.